The next text I'd like to take you to is really leading up to a discussion about how you and Minister of Public Safety, Marco Mendicino, talked about the situation that Ottawa was facing and to some extent the country was facing, even at this early date. And so, Mr. Clerk, if you could turn up the document that is the same prefix but with the number 7852. And if I'm reading the dates correctly, we are still on Friday, February 4th, as in the last exchange, but though that was with your Chief of Staff, I think. This, if I'm understanding correctly, and you can confirm this for me, please, is an exchange between you and Minister Mendicino?
I certainly believe it is. I certainly recognize my words there, but I believe the other would be Minister Mendicino, but I'm not 100% certain.
And which words do you claim?
I claim the green.
Okay. So Minister Mendicino says to you, the police have all the legal authority they need to enforce the law. They just need to exercise it and do their job. You might, if you've been following the evidence of Minister Blair and others who made similar comments?
Loosely, we do have other work to do while we're here.
Understood. And then you make a comment, again, perhaps not unique to yourself, but expressed very, very frankly here. I was stunned by the lack of a multi-layered plan. Now, we've heard other expressions like contingency plan, but not multi-layered. Can you, are they the same thing? Is that what you mean here?
I don't believe so. I believe it's a structured plan in stages to get protesters to leave peacefully, get occupiers to leave peacefully, and if not peacefully, begin to move them out in an orderly fashion, in a safe fashion. So there are different layers to that.
Understood. So if I'll just interrupt you to see if I can anticipate what you're going to say. You're actually thinking of a plan to deal with the protest by February 4th. You're stunned by the absence of a plan.
Right, and this is referring to local police, the police of jurisdiction.
The Ottawa police not having a plan.
That's correct.
By that Friday. And you make again in stark terms the observation slowly is incompetent. And the words speak for themselves, but was that an observation you were making specific to the situation you were looking at, or was that an opinion that you had developed from some other context?
I'm a part-time resident of Ottawa. I was a part-time resident of Ottawa during this. I was forced out of my living arrangements in Ottawa because I felt that the place I was living was unsafe given the protests. So I spent part of my time elsewhere in Ottawa, and I spent part of my time in Montreal in order to escape Ottawa. So I was frustrated, I have to admit. This is a complete product of the heat of the moment. It is frank. I think I would soften it now with the benefit of hindsight with respect to the former Ottawa Chief of Police. But it reflects, I think, the fact that my life had been altered by this. My staff was being harassed when they went into work by convoy members who took issue with them wearing masks, particularly my female staff members on my ministerial team. And I was quite frustrated, I will admit.
Thank you for that. Now, for a second, I'd like us to revert to the comments we talked about at the beginning, where your role was described as, and you acknowledged as being, the chief law officer of the Crown in your capacity as Attorney General, and effectively Cabinet's lawyer in your capacity as Minister of Justice. And is it fair to say that you would expect your Cabinet colleagues to place considerable weight on your views of the legal issues that were facing the government as it encountered the convoy, the protests, and indeed the policing situation that you just opined on in your note about Chief Slowly?
In these kinds of interactions, I'm interacting, first of all, with a colleague and a friend. So there will be banter. There will be occasional attempts at bad humor on both of our parts and with others as well. And there will be occasional moments of frustration, which you've seen here. I'm speaking here more as a cabinet colleague, as a minister. I'm not speaking as Attorney General. I will guard my comments when I'm giving legal advice to my cabinet colleagues, and I do that often. In general, I think it's fair to say that when I'm interacting on text messaging with my colleagues, I'm acting as one of their contemporaries as a minister.
Okay, well, let's see how that plays out if with respect to the particular point that has come under discussion by a number of senior officials, a number of police officials, indeed the two witnesses at least who've preceded you, Minister Mendicino and Minister Blair, and that is the line between, I think it was perhaps First Commissioner Lucky who called it the line between church and state, but it's generally understood as the appropriate role for governance or oversight of police forces, and that it not tread too far into the realm of directing the police and their activities. So that is I take it, that is a topic on which you, as the Attorney General of the country, would have and would be expected by your colleagues to have fairly well-developed views. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And you'll see that in these exchanges, I'm in no way saying we need to direct the police. Well, the Ipperwash inquiry was clear in that regard, although we can identify as a government, according to that inquiry, priorities for us, but we can in no way make operational decisions for police of jurisdiction.
Well, let's look at these texts, and we'll come back to exactly that question of where you were relative to the line. Mr. Clerk, could we call up 7851? Again, same prefix, but with the last four letters, 7851. The date, if I'm following this correctly, is February 2nd, so the Wednesday of the first week of the convoy's presence in Ottawa. And again, if I'm following the bubbles correctly, you are having a text conversation with Minister Mendicino, and you are in blue and he is in gray. Have I got that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And the comment you make at the top of the first bubble, and again, though we'll take your caveat that you are texting here and not submitting a memo to Minister Mendicino, you're sending him a text, but time is short, events are unfolding quickly, and you are entering into, if not already, in a crisis situation. And your first comment is you, Marco, need to get the police to move, right? And then if we look at another text, and I apologize for the way these are just not filed in order, so I have to go through various documents. The next one I want to talk to you about is, Mr. Clerk, it is, again, same prefix, 7854. So we're going to go from you need to get the police to move. And again, this is the Attorney General of Canada talking to the Minister of Public Safety of Canada. Now, at this time, I think you're aware, but correct me if I'm wrong, Minister Lametti, that Minister Mendicino has become, in effect, the interface between the federal government and the City of Ottawa, the mayor, and the OPS, correct?
I believe so, and I would add I spoke to the province of Ontario as well.
Yes, but here you're speaking to the Minister of Public Safety, whom you know is the government's interface with the Ottawa force and city, and you say to him...
Actually, that I'm not going to accept that. I know that he is interacting with Minister Blair, and I presume at this stage that Brenda Lucki is having a role in these interactions. So I'm in no way certain that he is directly interacting with the OPS. I know that he's interacting with the Ontario government. I know that he's interacting with Minister Blair and Minister Lucki, but it's not a fair presumption to say that I know he's got direct...
You might not have known it if I reminded you that he actually had a discussion with the mayor the mayor of Ottawa, in respect of additional resources being provided by the federal government, and confirmed to cabinet that he had authorized that.
With political actors, yes.
Yes.
I knew he was having those relationships, but you had mentioned the OPS, and that's quite different.
Thank you, and that's a fair qualification. But with that in mind, again, the Attorney General speaking to the Minister of Public Safety, who is the liaison to the Mayor of Ottawa, and this is what you say at the bottom of this text. If you just scroll down a bit more, thank you. Spoke to Doug Downey, and here again, you are speaking these words to Minister Mendicino: needs slowly to be quick, quick, quick. Now, I guess the question I would pose is this: do you think that the question of whether Chief Slowly should be dealing with the Ottawa protesters quick, 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 or wait until he believes he has the resources to perform the operation safely? Do you think the decision between those two options is an operational decision for Chief Slowly, or a decision that should be influenced by you and Minister Mendicino?
It's definitely an operational decision. Remember, I'm interacting here as a colleague and Minister of Justice around the cabinet table. I'm not interacting as Attorney General. Minister Mendicino and I have a close relationship. There's some banter here. There's some humor here. That's a reference to my favorite Christmas movie, the quick, quick, quick part. And so I think we could take the temperature down here. We, as a government, according to the IPRWASH report, can identify our priorities to police services. That's the role that a Minister of Public Safety has, in this case, possibly also the Minister of Emergency Preparedness. But we can't make operational decisions. We know that. And remember, I'm not the one interacting with the police. And I'm assuming that Minister Mendicino is working with cabinet colleagues on a level of principle.
And happily, for the point that you've just made, Minister Lametti, you do get sort of airtime for that point in the texts that were filed. And so I'll ask the clerk to call up same prefix 7853. And I believe this is an extract of a text between you and Doug Downey. Is that right?
That's correct.
Can you remind us who Doug Downey is?
He's the Attorney General for Ontario.
Okay. And the words that are on the screen read for themselves. That's the second bubble that I'm interested in. And I think at the end of the second bubble, you make roughly the point that you were just making to me unprompted. You say, we can't make operational decisions, but Solgen can make government priorities clear in these situations as per IPRWASH report. And so I'm going to, I think you've made the point already, and I just wanted to, in fairness to you, point out that you'd indeed been adopting that position at the time in your own words. Although maybe, even though this is a text, we'll elevate them to the level of seriousness, because you've actually incorporated reference to a Commission of Inquiry report. And
This is also a different conversation with a counterpart in Ontario,
Right.
with whom I have a very productive working relationship. But this is not the banter that one has between friends with the same sense of humor.
Understood.